everybody, Cinemastic this here with this week's weekly review, where we take a look at all the movies I watched throughout the week, and I give you my quick thoughts on them. So let's take a look at everything I watched. The first title I checked out this week was Bionicle, Mask of Light, the movie. Now this I was pretty excited to check out, which is why I watched it pretty much right after I picked it up. I had heard some decent things. I know a lot of people who grew up around the time when Bionicles came out really enjoyed these movies. I was a bit too old for that. I was already like high school, college age when Bionicles were really big, so I missed the boat pretty far on that one. So I never got into Bionicles, but I am a big fan of animation. So really, the reason I wanted to check this out was all because of NerdGirl20. I'll put a link to her YouTube channel down below. Great YouTuber. Definitely give her a sub. Check her out. So she mentioned how much she loved this movie, and you know, I started thinking, maybe I should check it out. She really likes it. I'm a big fan of animation. Maybe it's good. And when I came across the first three movies, actually, I picked all three movies up for only $1.97 a piece. I figured I was definitely going to jump on them and check them out. And like I said, I was really interested in seeing what this was all about. Was it any good? How was the animation? So I sat down and watched it immediately, and it was okay. The story is mediocre. It's something we've all seen before. It's about basically these children Bionicles, and they end up getting sent on this mission, all have to do with this mask. If you don't know anything about Bionicles, they're all about masks and whatnot. That is one thing I do know, since I used to work at FAO Shores when Bionicles were really big, so I do know a bit about them, just again, never got into them. But it's all about these kids. They have to go on this big kind of magical quest type of deal. They deal with bad guys, and these other Bionicles are hunting them down and whatnot, and it's basically they learn that they have the strength within inside of them. Maybe little kids, but they're strong and they have the power to do this great quest. It's one of those kind of BS stories that we've all seen a million times before. Not to say it was bad. It's not like it's a bad story. No, it's okay. It works, but it's just something we've seen before, and it's very stereotypical, very mediocre. As far as the animation, though, it's 50-50 because the characters are beautiful. I thought they were really well animated. Every character looked great, just great CGI. Unfortunately, the backgrounds were really lacking. The backgrounds looked like they weren't finished, they didn't have great depth, and they didn't look nearly as good as the characters. The characters really popped out from the backgrounds because the backgrounds looked so bad, which just didn't really work for me. I wish they would have spent more time on the backgrounds, making them look better, making them match the characters a bit more, and then we would have had just some really good animation here. But unfortunately, we only get about half good animation. So can I recommend this? Not for everybody. Since it was just somewhat mediocre, not everybody's going to like this one. Since the animation was just only half good, I can't necessarily recommend it to all animation fans, but I would say if you do like children's movies, you do like animation, it's worth checking out. The next title I watched this week was My Two Dads, the complete first season. I was dying to check this one out because I grew up with this series. I remember watching it when it was on TV, and I absolutely used to love it. And I hadn't seen any My Two Dads since I saw this back in the late 80s. So this just was great to watch. Brought back all the great memories of watching this show, brought back my childhood, and it was fantastic. Just this brilliant sitcom, very funny, all about a girl who, her mother ends up dying, and they call in these two guys who used to be best friends, and apparently were both banging this little girl's mom. They don't quite know who the father is. It's definitely one of the two, but they don't know who. So the judge says, I'm awarding both of you custody of this daughter, basically, and she was kind of like left to them in the wife's or the girl's mother's will. So it's really kind of a stupid sort of, you know, premise, as most sitcoms usually are. It's like something that would never happen in a million years. Some judge isn't going to say, well, I'm awarding this girl to both of you, and you can both be her dad until we figured out who it is. It's kind of ridiculous, but they end up all moving in together. They've realized, well, if we're both going to be the dad, we should live together. So they end up having this apartment where they all live together, and the crazy wackiness ensues. You know, it is what it is. It's ridiculous, it's over the top, but if you like sitcoms, especially like late 80s, early 90s sitcoms, it's a blast to watch, and it is pretty funny. They get into some great moments, has some great stories. The one thing I found kind of weird, though, is you could definitely tell, at least from the first season, being gay was still very taboo, apparently, especially on TV. Because there are about a million times in this just first season alone where they say something. I'm like, oh, here comes the gay joke. Here comes the part where like somebody looks at the two dads and goes, oh, what's with you two, you know, or something like that, and they never pounce on it. It's amazing how different things were back then as they are now. If you have a story about two dads raising a daughter, you're going to have one gay joke after another. Every time these two dads introduce themselves as this little girl's, you know, as we're both her father, people are going to, you know, throw in a gay joke right there. It's how it always goes nowadays. But back then, I guess it was really taboo. They didn't bust out the gay jokes. Never. So it's funny watching a TV show like this from the 80s now when things are just so much different on TV. But regardless, it's great. It's My Two Dads. If you like just great classic sitcoms, this is one you have to see. Next I watched Unnatural Causes, starring John Ritter, which was one of the main reasons why I picked this one up. Love John Ritter. He's a great, great actor. Now this is a made-for-TV movie, which you're gonna definitely be able to tell while watching it. A lot of times where it kind of just fades to black and you're like, oh, that's where the commercial was. Things like that. The production's a little bit lower quality, but it is still a very, very good story. All about these Vietnam vets who just constantly throughout Vietnam got Agent Orange just dumped on them, which Agent Orange was this product that would kill all the plants, basically, so you know, the Vietnamese who they were shooting or hunting down and whatnot couldn't hide, you know, in the foliage and whatnot. It was basically just this big wasteland where nobody could really hide. So that's why they were dumping this stuff, but they were dumping it all on top of these soldiers, and they all come back, and years later, they all start to get cancer and die off, and John Ritter ends up getting cancer. They don't really know why. He just kind of has it. They just say, oh, well, you just got it. But he ends up, you know, kind of trying to figure out why he got it, and ends up all kind of going back to Agent Orange, and it's this whole big case of, you know, all these vets coming together who got this chemical dumped on them, and wanting, you know, wanting to get basically benefits from it, get paid for it from the government, and at least have the government apologize at least, because they're all pretty much going to die, and John Ritter unfortunately does die in the end of this. But, you know, it's a bittersweet ending where John Ritter, yes, does die, but, you know, dies nobly, because the whole time he was fighting to find out what really happened, find the truth, and, you know, make the government, show the government's guilty of screwing over their soldiers and their vets. And it was really cool. A great, great story, you know, very well done, really enjoyed it. If you like war movies, if you like kind of like, I wouldn't say, it's not really a court drama because there's no court in it, but if you like, you know, sort of like the court drama type stuff, you like dramas, you like war movies, then it's worth seeing. Next I checked out Living with Ed Season 2. Big fan of this show. Yeah, it's probably really set up. It's reality TV. Pretty much anything you see on TV nowadays that claims to be reality is scripted, so yeah, most likely scripted reality, but it's still fun to watch. All about Ed Begley Jr. and just how he's a crazy nut when it comes to being green. He just wants everything green. Solar power, you know, wind power, everything in his house has to, you know, conserve energy. He's just a nut with that stuff, and it's all about having to deal with that. Basically, him and his wife trying to live this super, super green life, and them trying to basically push it on everybody else. It's amusing, it's fun, it's really enjoyable. I mean, you learn things. If you want to learn how to be green, watch this show. You're going to learn a lot of really good tips. But it's fun watching Ed Begley, you know, push his ideas on other people. But the nice thing about it is he's not really like shoving it down their throats. The people who he's giving his ideas to and trying to shove green to, they want it. They want the information. They ask him to come over. They ask him, how can I be more green? So it's pretty interesting. Also features a lot of Bill Nye, because Bill Nye is actually one of Ed Begley Jr.'s neighbors. They're always trying to one-up each other. It's pretty funny, and I'm a huge Bill Nye fan, so love that he keeps popping up in this series. It's just great. So I do really enjoy this show. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's probably all complete BS, scripted reality, but it's still a fun watch. The next title I watched was First Invasion, The War of 1812. This was a blast to watch, as when it comes to the War of 1812, they call it America's Forgotten War. And it's because a lot of people don't know much about it, and I knew some things about it. I have seen documentaries on it before. I remember learning about it in school, but I didn't know a ton about it. There were a lot of things about this war that I was not aware of. So watching this was great. Very informative, learned a ton about the war, and I absolutely loved it for that. I mean, I love these great classic History Channel documentaries. Wish we still saw these a lot on the History Channel. You just don't see many great documentaries like this on the History Channel anymore. Unfortunately, 90% of it, it's always reality TV nowadays, and I really, really miss these great documentaries because, again, they were informative, you learn something, they're a great watch, and I really did enjoy this. I don't have too much more to say about it. It is just a documentary on the War of 1812. If that interests you, then this is definitely one to check out. You will learn plenty, and yeah, I'd recommend it. Then I watched another documentary with The Real Eve, this one here being a Discovery Channel documentary. Again, I miss Discovery Channel documentaries too. This is all about how we can all basically trace our ancestors back to one woman in Africa who they call Eve. Apparently, though, that was a mistake calling her Eve because they thought, it seemed like a good name for her. But a lot of people, apparently, they were saying in this documentary, got up in arms when they named her Eve because a lot of people thought they meant the biblical Eve. And they were trying to say that this is the biblical Eve, and a lot of people were not happy about that. So, yeah, they kind of fucked up there. They pissed a lot of people off by giving the wrong idea that they meant this is the biblical Eve. It's not. They just name her Eve, and they basically say we can all trace our heritage back to her. And it's neat because they trace it all back to her, and they show how different cultures branched off, going everywhere from Australia to Europe to Asia over to the Americas. Just basically this one group of very early humans branching out and going everywhere, migrating everywhere. They talk about why they went different places, why it took them to get to certain places longer than other places. Like they say, why did humans go to Australia before they went to Europe? It seems kind of crazy. Europe's just walk across some land. It's a far walk, sure, but you just go up. As opposed to Australia, that's across this huge ocean. It's this really risky, shark-infested, perilous journey. I mean, going to Australia just by little canoe boats is not an easy task. Walking up to Europe would be a hell of a lot easier. But they say, well, there's a big-ass desert they had to cross over, and they literally couldn't make that. There's no way to get across this desert. They don't have provisions. It's just impossible. At least going across the ocean, they could fish, and I guess, I don't know how they got water, but they could basically, they could make that trip. It was really difficult, but they could make it. But it was really impossible to go up to Europe, which again seems really easy, but it wasn't. So you learn great things about that. You learn they talk about different reasons why there's. One of the things I really liked, actually, this is pretty cool. They talk about skin tone, and you always hear stuff about like the darker skin is prevent from the sunlight and UV rays and stuff, and you hear that, but they don't. I never really knew why. Apparently, skin is an excellent protector of UV rays. And our body produces some kind, I can't remember the name of it, but some sort of chemical needed to make children, and it's really, really susceptible, I can't say that word. UV rays will kill off this chemical in your body really easily. So the darker your skin is, you're in an area with lots and lots of heavy UV light, your skin's darker to protect you from those UV rays. And as we migrated, we didn't need that. We didn't need our skin to be so dark, so our skin lightened. It's just really, really interesting. Just all the things I learned from this. It was really good. It's not just about tracing our ancestors back to one person, but it's tracing our ancestors back to that one person and then watching how we migrated and why things are the way they are now. And it's just really, really well done. Very informative, and I would definitely recommend this documentary as well. And the next movie I watched was the big one. That was a Serbian film. This I really wanted to see just based on its reputation alone. I'd heard some pretty crazy things about this movie. And unfortunately, this is the edited version. I have not seen the unedited version. I do not own the unedited version. But if this is edited, I can only imagine, or actually, I don't know if I could imagine what the unedited version is like, because this is insane. However, about the first hour of the movie, there's some crazy things going on, some disgusting, some raw things, but I've seen worse movies, so I'm thinking to myself, this isn't all that bad. People are blowing this movie way out of proportion. It's not nearly as bad as people say. Until we got about to the last half hour of the movie, and then the shit hits the fan. Just, wow. This movie, the reputation this movie gets is definitely all within the last half hour of the movie. It's insane. I'm not really going to go too much into detail because I don't feel like getting kicked off YouTube. I mean, just Jesus Christ, this movie, it's just insane. The things that happen in this movie, I mean, you're cringing, it's gross, it's disgusting, it's fucked up all around. Yes, this movie 100% lives up to the reputation it gets. I completely understand why it was banned in so many different countries. This is a fucked up film. And I'd recommend it, because the story was really interesting. It was crazy, it was fucked up, it was ridiculous, but it kind of had a fun... Alright, maybe I shouldn't say fun, but it had an interesting story, a really crazy, just messed up, interesting story, but a story that I actually really enjoyed while I was trying to keep from cringing. So, a Serbian film, it's not going to be for everybody, but I would recommend checking it out if you want to see something crazy, if you want to see some insane shit go down within a movie. I mean, we're talking about some pretty nasty things here. Yeah, then check it out. Again, it's not going to be for everybody. Be warned, it is crazy, it is fucked up, it is really, really just a messed up movie, but I enjoyed it, and I'd say check it out. Then I checked out Old Dogs. Now, this is a movie I've wanted to see more or less just recently. I remember when I saw the trailers for this, I thought, yeah, you know, it looks alright, but I had really no interest in seeing it until I started hearing more reviews on it. And I heard some decent reviews, so I was interested in seeing it. That's why I picked it up and then checked it out right away. And it was just mediocre. I'd say the movie was very stereotypical. It seemed like they were just ripping off a lot of pretty much everything you see from other movies. It just, you kind of knew how everything was going to go. Every time something happened, you saw it coming. The movie just played out perfectly in the sense that it was just so cliche. Every joke was cliche. Every scene was cliche. Everything was just 100% just crazy cliche about this movie. But it was alright. The story was fun. It's all about Robin Williams. He ends up finding out he has some kids. But the mother of the kids, she's going off to jail, and she leaves him with him. So now he has to take care of him. You got John Travolta, who's his best friend. He gets involved in taking care of him too, and just the crazy wackiness ensues. And in the end, not only does Robin Williams realize that his kids are more important than his business, he loves his kids, John Travolta realizes also business isn't everything, you know, family's more important. He's a bit of a player, but he realizes these kids mean a lot to his best friends. They're his best friend's kids, and he's going to love them. So it's, you know, it's a decent story, but it is, again, very mediocre, very stereotypical, extremely cliche. But when I say watch it, you know, it's hard to recommend this one. I'd say if you're interested in seeing it, if you have some interest in seeing it, sure, check it out. It wasn't bad. It'll hold your interest. It was okay. But if this seems like a movie you have no interest in, then you probably don't need to see it. And the last title that I watched this week, unfortunately, I can't physically show you because it was a title the wife rented from Redbox, and that was Warm Bodies. Now, this was a movie I was pretty interested in seeing because I had heard, you know, it was okay. It was pretty decent. I saw trailers for it and, you know, again, read some reviews, and it looked interesting, but I kept hearing a lot of people compare it to Twilight. And that's what kind of made me go, alright, is this going to be any good? Because the last thing I need is a, you know, a Twilight story, a zombie human Twilight story. I don't want to see that. I mean, Twilight, I hope Twilight's the only series that ever just does that. You know, Twilight I find okay. It's an alright series. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. But I don't need more stories like that. I don't want to see more Twilight stories. So I was thinking, geez, really? They went all Twilight-y on us? That's gonna suck. But, you know, I was interested in seeing what the movie was about. And I was pleasantly surprised to find out it was nothing like Twilight. This movie was actually funny. It was enjoyable, had great characters. Yes, it's a movie about a girl falling in love with a boy zombie. But it's really interesting to watch, you know, this zombie kind of take care of this girl and whatnot, and then she starts to realize that something's going on with these zombies. You know, they're kind of changing, and it's hard. It's going to be hard to describe this movie without making it sound really cheesy because the zombies go from being zombies to being, you know, more human. They basically start curing themselves, and it's love that's curing them. I know that sounds really, really cheesy, but it's done well. It's done in a way that makes the movie fun. It's not cheesy. It's actually pretty good. I feel like an idiot, though, because it wasn't until the credits started rolling that I went, Romeo and Juliet, what the hell was I thinking? The girl's name's Julie. The zombie's name, they don't ever give him a real name. They don't ever say what his real name is. They just call him R because that's all he could get out when he's trying to say his name. So yeah, R, Julie, yeah, Romeo, Juliet, ha ha ha. I felt so stupid that it took me till the end of the movie to get that. I was like, wow, I'm an idiot. But still, like I said, the movie was just it seems really cheesy when I describe it, but I assure you it's actually a fun movie. Yeah, it might have a few cheesy moments to it, but it's actually a decent zombie movie. I gotta give kudos to the writer of the film. I mean, to take a human zombie love story and not make that suck, that's pretty good. You gotta have some talent to do that, and that's why I was kind of weary going into the movie, because I was thinking, again, a zombie human love story, this is probably gonna be cheesy as hell and just be really piss poorly done. But again, I enjoyed it the entire time, the entire hour and a half. I was roped into it. I thought it was really, really well done, really good. Love the characters, love the story, and I would recommend this. Maybe it's not going to be for everybody, but if you like zombies and you just want to watch a good film with some pretty funny moments in it, there are some great laughs in this film, then I would definitely recommend checking it out. So that's it, guys. It's everything I checked out this week. Definitely watched a bunch of great movies. Finally happy to check out a Serbian film, even though it was really fucked up. I'm happy to have finally seen it since I've heard so much about it over the years. And like I said, if you want to see a really fucked up movie, check it out. So that's it. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for my next video. See ya.